Hey everyone, very exciting day today because we are almost finishing the Shelby GT350 project again with the whole engine rebuild. We are almost finishing. I can't promise that we're going to finish completely with everything at the startup today in this video, but the next video should be the one. Should be, I mean, I don't want to make any promises, but it should be. We are almost there. So today's main focus is getting the clutch and the flywheel installed, then getting the transmission bolted up, and then getting any accessories like any hoses, any wiring that remains, and then finally getting that engine inside the car. So let me show you again what the engine looks like so far, because I know that it's been quite some time. So again, it's pretty much finished with everything. The only thing is the clutch, the flywheel, and that transmission. So I do have a clutch and flywheel from Mantech, which I will be speaking about in a little bit, but we're going to be installing this today, getting it all together, and finally getting this inside the Shelby GT350 because it has been so long. Let me just be honest with you guys for a second as to why this engine rebuild project has just taken so long. And to be honest, I am just over it. That is the main reason. This has taken such a long time. I want it to be done already, but at the same time, I'm kind of like dreading working on it. The second thing, which is a huge thing, is that the temperature. It is so hot here now, and anything that involves me just being outside, working outside, especially in this shop with the lack of AC, is just like, I really don't want to do it. But either way, today we're going to power through this because we need to get this done. We need to get this car back up and running. Here are the Mantech goodies. So we have the flywheel, we have a slave, as well as the clutch. So this is a lightened flywheel and this is a twin disc clutch. So again, this is my main priority today. Apart from all of this, let me show you something that I found pretty interesting. Look at this suitcase where the slave and the clutch comes delivered in. I thought that this was just like, wow. Your clutch is pretty safe in here. So I mean, I was just impressed. I had to show that. The good thing about this setup is that it can support up to 1,000 horsepower to the crank. Not that I'll ever go that far because this car, it is going to stay NA. I know that some of you were telling me to go, oh, supercharger turbo. Nope. It is going to stay NA, but at least I have that ease of mind that this setup right now can support up to 1,000 horsepower. And if any of you guys are looking for a new clutch now, or whether it be in the future, whether you have a Mustang, a Camaro, I mean, they support for a variety of different cars, different platforms. I do have a discount code for 10% off, so I have it here on the screen. It is WD10. Again, it'll give you 10% off. So I have all of their info, all of the discount code, their website in the description down below. But now that I showed you this, let's go ahead and start with installing the flywheel. All right, so this is very simple. The first thing that we need to do is put these bolts through the back of the flywheel. Then we're going to mount this to the block. Now you really need to make sure that you do this step first, just because once you mount it to the block, there's not going to be any space at all to put these bolts. So just make sure you take care of that first. Then once we do that, Mantech does provide these 8 OEM Ford bolts. So these are the bolts that we're going to use in order to tighten the flywheel. So they will require red Loctite, and there's a specific torque pattern and value that we need to follow. So let's go ahead and take care of that first. Once we have that on the block, then we can go ahead and proceed to everything else. The flywheel is now mounted and installed. The bolts are in, everything is torqued. Like I said before, it does have a specific torque value and torque pattern. As far as the pattern, I'm just following what the Ford guide says. Now, in regards to the torque value, it does have 3 stages. So the first one, you need a torque to 89 inch-pounds. The second time, you need a torque to 177 inch-pounds. The third time is the bit tricky. So for the third one, you're either going to need a tool that Ford sells that you can use it in between the flywheel and the block just to prevent it from spinning, or you can just get someone to like hold this with the pry bar like somewhere in between here against the block to prevent it from spinning, which is exactly what I did. And then the other person is going to torque to 59 foot-pounds. So everything is done, it's installed. So now we are going to proceed with the rest. So what's next is that we need to install the spacers here on the bolts, then we need to install the clutches, and then we need to install the pressure plate. The flywheel and the clutch are now mounted on the block, so we're ready to go with this. So this was pretty easy, just like you guys saw. The clutch, it was very simple. Just put the spacers here on those same bolts that we used at first for the flywheel. Then we put in the clutch, then a face plate, then put in the second clutch. Once I put in the second clutch, then I just used this alignment tool. I just left it on there and then just kept on with the second plate. The only thing that I was a little bit nervous was about dropping the clutch, because I don't know if you guys remember when I disassembled, when it was all stock, I by mistake dropped a clutch, and that was something that I was not wanting to repeat again for the second time. But everything is all good. Slave cylinder is now on, so removed the stock one and also installed this one. It also comes with a spacer, so installed that. It also comes with a new line, so everything is good to go on this end. So now pretty much we're almost there, at least when it comes to the transmission. All we need to do is bolt the transmission now to the engine. Once that's on, then we can just run any additional lines that need to be ran, and then we can finally work on getting this onto the GT350 finally. I had a feeling it was gonna take this long leading until the second day. I mean, I did start a little bit late. There were some issues that happened yesterday, but either way. So you guys saw yesterday the clutch went in, the flywheel, the new slave cylinder. Now it was the big job itself of just attaching that transmission to the engine. So that's already done. Of course, I didn't do that by myself just because it's impossible. That transmission is heavy. You have to be very precise, very careful, just angling it, which I'm about to explain to you guys and show it to you guys how it is right now. But after that, the party continued because there were a few more things that happened after that. But let me show you the transmission and then let me see what happened next. The transmission is attached to the engine. It is pretty much ready to go at this point. But let me tell you that this was not easy. It may look easy, just attach it, just bring it close and attach it. No, first of all, this angle, and just to get it precise here, is not as easy as it may seem. The engine itself was sitting a lot further than that, so we had to slide it closer to that, which let me tell you was a lot of work. It wasn't fun. This took a lot longer than I was expecting. And then just the way this was sitting, before was horizontal. The way that it was sitting, that the transmission was sitting on this, was vertical. So a lot of strength to get this to be angled and for it to be precise. And either way, it's now on. All right, so after the transmission is attached, then it's pretty much the easy part of just routing cables, just plugging in the rest of the harness, just the cooler lines, which you'd think is not a problem at all, which it wasn't, except when I needed new bolts just because of the engine mounts. So I don't have the stock engine mounts, I have BMR engine mounts, so therefore I'm not using the stock bolts. Now these stock bolts, with everything that you're plugging in, there are some lines that are using those stock bolts, but again, since I have those BMR engine mounts and I'm using aftermarket bolts for these engine mounts that don't work with some of the wiring here, so that was an issue in itself. So had to go to Home Depot to figure that out with the bolts. Once everything was figured out, then everything was pretty much good to go. So the only thing that's left is pretty much attaching this engine to the car. As happy as I am that it got rebuilt, that it's already just ready to go, I don't want to see this anymore. I just want to see it when I open up the hood and it's in my car and my car is working. On to the fun part, which is just getting this engine in the car, getting it all bolted in the GT350. I will need help for this just because this is a big job itself. So this might take, I don't know, I'm guessing like maybe 1 or 2 hours. I really don't know, but to you guys it'll be really quick. It'll take about a second. So I'll see you guys once the engine is bolted on in the car. Literally 2 hours later, so I guess I was right with that estimate. The engine is bolted on the car. I am very happy, but I am also tired. I think if I wasn't as tired, I'd be able to show a little bit more emotion, but I mean, we're getting there. At least the engine is on the car. I'll show you in a little bit, because I'm like, when I look at the engine, I'm like, whose car is this? This isn't my car. I was just so used to just seeing the empty shell and then just seeing the engine out that this just looks so foreign to me. I was just staring at the engine bay for a long time, but either way, it did take quite some time, just because of course, like everything, there's always, you know, some issues that happen. So let me show you those. And I can't believe that the engine is back in the Shelby. Finally bolted on the GT350. And just to show you that there's no tricks, let me just go here towards the bottom. That's why I have it raised, just because I want to show you guys that it actually is bolted on. It honestly feels like this time would never come, but it is here. Me just looking at this engine bay, I'm just like in awe, because this, I mean, it looks familiar, but at the same time it looks foreign, because I just can't believe that my engine is in there. I'll lower it a little bit so you guys can have a better look, but let me show you the issues, you know, the few surprises that you always run into. First thing is that AC compressor. I cannot tell you how it caused an issue when just removing the engine and bringing it down, just because you have to remove those bolts, you have to remove it from the block, and it's such in a bad position, it just kills the space for you to lower the engine, or just it just gets in the way of everything. So the same thing happened this time around, putting the engine back up. It is such an inconvenient place. Like, it is one of the most annoying things, that AC compressor, but either way, it's back on there. The second thing are these transmission cooler lines. So I'm not gonna deny, I did kind of forget if they had to go in front of this brake line or in the back of this brake line. I had to watch a few videos to try to remember like where were those. So originally they were here in front of the brake lines. After watching the videos, I'm like, oh, they go in the back of the brake line. So that was another mission that we had to go through to move these transmission cooler lines behind it. I mean, it's a lot easier talking about it, but going through that and just the lack of space of doing any work here, just now that the engine is here in the engine bay, it just makes it a lot harder to work with than the engine being outside the car, and you have a lot more room, a lot more space that you can do whatever you need to. But those two were a pretty huge mission. Speaking on the topic of the lack of space here with all of the other lines, so this engine harness was another issue, just because, again, forgetting a little, I mean, this was such a long time ago, just forgetting of the placement of things. I wasn't sure if this engine harness was supposed to be in front of the AC compressor or towards the back of the AC compressor. So again, I had to go back, look at a few videos, look at a few of the manuals. So this was originally on towards the back of the AC compressor, so then we had to move that. Can you imagine? Just look at this and look at the lack of space. That was, again, another kind of mission within itself to move that here. But anyways, we managed. So now another thing was the steering shaft. So it's right here, just because honestly, again, that was another thing that just made it a little bit difficult to just try to get the engine positioned here. The steering shaft goes like kind of over there. It's really hard to see, and it was just getting in the way. So I mean, I figured this is easier to just remove it and then put it back in, but I'll save that for the next time. Honestly, I feel very, very accomplished today. What it took like, I don't even know, a year and a half, I already lost count, is almost already finalized. My Shelby is almost there for the first startup again with the new rebuilt engine. But I think that is enough for today. Again, this was a lot of work. Even though you guys see this happening really fast here on video, it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort. So I am a little bit tired already. Day 2 with this. I think I am done for now, just for today. But like I said before, the next video should be the final video to just get this car back up and running. So we have just a little bit for the next video. So for the next video, basically what's going to be is just finishing this entire thing. So anything that needs to be plugged in, so all of these wires, all of these hoses will be plugged in. I still need to get the belts as well. I still need to put the reservoir. I still need to put the steering shaft. Then I also have this radiator, this Mishimoto radiator that's been waiting here for, I don't even know, a lot of months, maybe like a year. So I will remove the stock one, just because I do not want any cooling issues. So I will be putting that new Mishimoto radiator here in the car. Then of course all of the fluids that I need to be put in, and then I think we're pretty much good after all of that is taken care of. I don't have a drive shaft. I just remember that I do have the stock one, but I won't be using that one. I'll be getting a new one, so I don't need the drive shaft to turn on the car. But after we take care of everything else, then tomorrow, what am I saying tomorrow? I'm getting ahead of myself. Then the next video, the next Shelby GT350 video will be the startup. I can't believe that it is happening. I am so happy. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.